I abandoned my 2-week-old daughter to prove I wasn't the broken woman my husband said I was. And tonight she's calling another woman Mama. The deployment papers feel like sandpaper in my hands as I sit in this sterile family court waiting. Room in Fort Worth, Texas. Judge Morrison will decide in 30 minutes whether I get my daughter back or lose her forever to the foster family that's raised her for the past 18 months while I was getting shot at in Anbar Province. My lawyer, a tired public defender who smells like cigarettes and regret, shuffles through my file one more time. Casey, I need you to understand something. Prosecution is going to paint you as an abandoning mother who chose war over her child. They have statements from neighbors, hospital staff, even your ex-husband. My ex-husband who left me when I was 7 months pregnant? I laugh bitterly. What's his credibility worth? More than yours right now. She doesn't sugarcoat it. You? Signed deployment papers 14 days after giving birth. 14 days, Casey. Most people can't even imagine that. Neither could I, until I did it. But sitting in that cramped apartment in Killeen, staring at Lily's perfect face while she screamed through another sleepless night, knowing I had no money, no support, no future except welfare and food stamp signing. Those papers felt like the only way to build something better for both of us. The Army offered me a $40,000 signing bonus, I remind her, plus combat pay, medical benefits, education benefits when I got back. I thought you could have it all. My lawyer closes the file, but the judge won't see it that way. She see a woman who chose money over motherhood. The courtroom doors open. Time's up. Judge Morrison is younger than I expected, maybe 50, with the kind of steely expression that comes from seeing too many broken families parade through her courtroom. The foster parents sit in the front row, the Hendersons, a middle-aged couple who've been caring for Lily since my mother died 9 months into my deployment. Mrs. Henderson keeps glancing back at me with something that might be pity or might be disgust. Mr. Henderson won't make eye contact at all. Between them sits a little girl I barely recognized, Lily at 20 months old, blonde curls and bright eyes, wearing a pink dress I've never seen. She doesn't know who I am. Ms. West, Judge Morrison begins, you voluntarily deployed to Iraq when your daughter was 14 days old. Can you explain that decision to this court? I stand, my hands shaking slightly. For 18 months, I've practiced this moment, rehearsed these words. But looking at Lily, at this stranger who shares my DNA, but not my life, everything I planned to say evaporates. Your Honor, I made the best decision I could with the information I had. My ex-husband abandoned us. I had no job, no education, no way to provide for my daughter's future. The Army offered stability, financial security, and a chance to serve something bigger than myself. By leaving an infant with your elderly mother, my mother volunteered to help. She said she was honored to care for her granddaughter while I served our country. And when your mother became ill, when she could no longer care for your daughter, the words stick in my throat. I was on patrol in Fallujah when the Red Cross message came through. Mom in the hospital. Heart attack. Lily in emergency foster care. I tried to get emergency leave, but our unit was in the middle of a major operation. By the time I made it home for the funeral, Lily had been with the Hendersons for 3 weeks. I requested emergency leave immediately. But due to operational requirements, due to your choice to prioritize military service over parental responsibility, the prosecutor, a sharp-faced woman in her 40s, doesn't let me finish. Ms. West, during your deployment, how many times did you request leave to visit your daughter? Twice, but both requests were denied because your unit was engaged in active combat operations. Operations you volunteered for. She approaches the bench with a stack of papers. Your Honor, these are testimony statements from Ms. West's fellow soldiers describing her behavior during deployment. My blood runs cold. I know what's in those statements, the breakdowns, the times I lost control, the night I went AWOL trying to call home and nearly got court-martialed. Sergeant Thompson describes an incident where Ms. West became emotionally unstable after losing a recording of her daughter's voice. Lieutenant Rodriguez reports that she violated direct orders on multiple occasions, endangering her unit. The prosecutor reads clinically, like she's reciting a grocery list. Corporal Martinez states that Ms. West was obsessed with proving herself and took unnecessary risks that put other soldiers in danger. Each word is a knife. These are my brothers and sisters in arms, people I bled with, fought with, saved, and was saved by. But they're not here to defend me. They're here to destroy me. However, the prosecutor continues, and something in her tone makes me look up. These same statements also describe extraordinary acts of courage and heroism. Wait, what? Sergeant Thompson also states that Ms. West saved his life during a mortar attack, dragging him to safety despite being under direct fire. Lieutenant Rodriguez reports that she single-handedly treated and evacuated 3 wounded soldiers after their vehicle was destroyed by an IED. Corporal Martinez describes how Ms. West's obsession with proving herself led her to volunteer for the most dangerous missions, resulting in 17 soldiers returning home alive who might not have otherwise. I'm staring at the prosecutor, confused. Is she helping me or destroying me? Your Honor, the picture that emerges from these statements is complex. Yes, Ms. West struggled with the emotional challenges of deployment, but she also demonstrated extraordinary courage, selflessness, and dedication to her fellow soldiers. The question before this court is whether her service to her country should overshadow her absence from her daughter's life. Judge Morrison calls a brief recess. I sit in the hallway, trying to process what just happened. My lawyer finds me 20 minutes later, looking stunned. Casey, we need to talk. The prosecutor just offered a plea deal. What kind of deal? Supervised visitation, with the possibility of increased custody over time. You'd have to complete parenting classes, undergo psychological evaluation, and submit to regular home visits. But you'd get to see Lily. And if I don't take it, then we go to trial and risk losing everything. The Hendersons have filed for adoption. If the judge rules against you, you could lose all parental rights permanently. Through the courthouse window, I can see protesters gathering. Word has gotten out about the case, the mother who abandoned her baby for war. Half the signs condemn me as a selfish monster. The other half call me a hero. I don't feel like either. There's something else, my lawyer says quietly. Someone wants to testify on your behalf. Staff Sergeant Michael Torres says you saved his life in Iraq. Torres. I remember him, a 23-year-old kid from El Paso with a new wife and a baby on the way. He took shrapnel in the leg during a convoy attack, and I carried him 2 miles through hostile territory to reach medical evacuation. He flew in from Fort Hood this morning. Says he has something important to tell the court about what kind of person you really are. When court reconvenes, Torres takes the stand in his dress uniform, medals gleaming. He's older now, more serious, but I can still see the scared kid who bled in my arms 3 years ago. Staff Sergeant Torres, my lawyer begins, please tell the court about your experience serving with Ms. West in Iraq. Torres looks directly at me, then at the judge. Your Honor, Casey West is the reason I'm alive today. And more than that, she's the reason my son has a father. He tells the story of that convoy attack, but not the way I remember it. In his version, I'm some kind of superhero, dragging wounded soldiers to safety while bullets flew, performing field surgery under fire, refusing evacuation until every man was accounted for. But that's not why I'm here, Torres continues. I'm here because of what happened after. After? I don't remember any after to that story. 3 months later, I got a letter from Casey. She was struggling with being away from her daughter, questioning her decision to deploy, wondering if she was a terrible mother. I wrote her back and told her about my wife, about how scared I was that my son would grow up without a father, about how grateful I was that Casey's sacrifice meant. I got to come home. My throat tightens. I'd forgotten about those letters, the late-night conversations in the mess hall where we talk about our families, our fears, our guilt over being away from the people we loved. Casey West didn't abandon her daughter, Your Honor. She left her, daughter in loving care, while she risked her life to make sure other people's children didn't lose their parents. That's not abandonment. That's sacrifice. The courtroom is silent except for the sound of someone crying. I realize it's me. I have a 2-year-old son now, Torres concludes. And when he's old enough to understand, I'm going to tell him about the woman who gave up everything to make sure he could grow up with his daddy. Casey West is a hero, Your Honor. But more than that, she's a mother who loves her daughter enough to sacrifice for her future. Asterisk. During the lunch break, something unexpected happens. Mrs. Henderson approaches me in the cafeteria, her eyes red from crying. Double quotes Ms. West. Could we talk? We sit at a corner table. 2 women who've shared the impossible burden of loving the same. Child, I want you to know, she says quietly, Lily is the light of our lives. When she came to us, she was so small, so scared. We fell in love with her immediately. My heart breaks a little more. She looks happy, healthy. She is, but she's also. Mrs. Henderson pauses, choosing her words carefully. She asks about her mama. We've never lied to her about you. We've shown her pictures, told her stories about the brave soldier who loved her so much she went to fight bad guys to keep her safe. I stare at her. You told her that? It's the truth, isn't it? She reaches across the table and touches my hand. Ms. West Casey, I was wrong about you. I thought you were selfish, careless. But listening to that young man testify, I realize I never tried to understand why you made the choice you did. I was 25 years old, broke, alone, and terrified. I whisper. I thought I was doing the right thing. Maybe you were. Maybe there is no right thing in situations like this. She wipes her eyes. My husband and I. We're not trying to steal your daughter. We're trying to give her stability while you figure out how to be the mother she needs. What are you saying? I'm saying maybe we can work together. Maybe Lily doesn't have to choose between the people who raised her and the woman who gave birth to her. Maybe she can have both. When court reconvenes, something has changed. The prosecutor stands, but instead of continuing her case, she makes an unexpected announcement. Your Honor, in light of new evidence and testimony, the state would like to amend its position. We believe it's in the best interest of the child to establish a gradual reunification plan that allows Ms. West to rebuild her relationship with her daughter while maintaining the stability she's found with her foster family. Judge Morrison looks surprised. Are all parties in agreement with this approach? My lawyer nods. A Henderson's attorney nods. Even the child advocate nods. But Judge Morrison isn't finished. Ms. West, before I make my ruling, I want to address something. This case has attracted significant public attention, much of it focused on your decision to deploy shortly after giving birth. I want to be clear about something. Military service is not incompatible with motherhood. Women have served their country while raising families for generations, and they deserve our support, not our judgment. She looks around the courtroom, her gaze settling on the gallery where reporters and protesters have been watching every moment. However, I also want to acknowledge that your daughter has needs that must be prioritized above all else. She needs stability, consistency, and love. The question is how to provide those things while honoring your service and your rights as her mother. The ruling takes 20 minutes to read. Supervised visitation 3 times a week. Overnight visits. After 6 months. Potential for shared custody after 1 year, depending on evaluations and Lily's adjustment. Mandatory parenting classes, counseling, and regular check-ins with social services. It's not what I hoped for, but it's not what I feared either. It's a chance. After court, I'm standing outside the courthouse when Torres approaches me, now in civilian clothes. "How are you holding up, West?" "Honestly, I don't know. Part of me is relieved, part of me is terrified, and part of me still thinks I made the biggest mistake of my life. Can I tell you something?" He looks around, making sure we're alone. "That night you wrote me about questioning whether you were a good mother? I lied in my response." "What do you mean?" "I mean, I was lying when I said you did the right thing. At the time, I thought you were crazy. I couldn't understand how any mother could leave her baby." He runs his hand through his hair. "But then my wife got deployed when our son was 18 months old. And suddenly, I understood what you went through, the impossible choice between serving your country and being with your child." "What happened?" "She took the deployment. Spent 8 months in Afghanistan while I raised our son alone. And you know what? Our marriage survived, our son thrived, and she came back a stronger person and a better mother." He grips my shoulder. "There's no perfect way to balance service and family, Casey. There's just doing your best with impossible choices." 6 months later, I'm picking up Lily for our first overnight visit. She's shy at first, clinging to Mrs. Henderson's leg, but when I show her the photo album I've been putting together, pictures from my deployment, stories about the places I've been, the people I've helped, she starts asking questions. "Mama Casey, did you really help hurt people get better?" "I did, sweetheart. That was my job, to help people who were hurt. Like a doctor? Like a doctor, yes." She nods solemnly, processing this information with the serious expression of a 2-year-old trying to understand the world. That night, as I tuck her into the bed I'd set up in my new apartment, a modest place near the Hendersons so she can maintain her relationships, she looks up at me with eyes that are unmistakably mine. "Mama Casey? Yes, baby? I missed you?" The words hit me like a physical blow. She missed me. This little girl who barely knows me, who's been raised by others, who has every reason to see me as a stranger, she missed me. "I missed you too, Lily. Every single day. Will you read me a story?" I read her 3 stories, sing her 2 lullabies, and hold her hand until she falls asleep. Then I sit in my living room, staring at the photos Torres gave me from Iraq, pictures of our unit, of the missions we ran, of the lives we saved and the friends we lost. For the first time since I came home, those pictures don't make me feel guilty. They make me feel proud. I served my country with honor. I saved lives. I made sacrifices that mattered. But the sacrifice that mattered most was sitting in the next room, sleeping peacefully in a bed I'd bought with money I earned serving. Something bigger than myself. A year later, I'm testifying before a congressional subcommittee on military families. The hearing room is packed with reporters, advocates, and service members. Representative Johnson, a former Marine, leans forward as I conclude my prepared statement. "Ms. West, based on your experience, what would you recommend to help military families better balance service obligations with parental responsibilities?" Enhanced family support services, improved communication technology for deployed parents, and most importantly, recognition that military service and parenthood are not mutually exclusive. We ask our service members to sacrifice for their country. We should not ask them to sacrifice their families as well. And knowing what you know now, would you make the same choice to deploy? The question I've been dreading. I look around the room, seeing faces of other military parents, other people, who've faced impossible choices. Representative Johnson, I can't say I'd make the same choice, because I'm not the same person who made it. I was a scared, young single mother who saw military service as the only path to a better future for my daughter and myself. Was it the right choice? I don't know. Did it work out? Eventually. Would I recommend it to others? That depends on their circumstances. But do you regret it? I think about Lily, now 3 years old, and splitting her time between my apartment and the Hendersons' house. I think about the 17 soldiers Torres mentioned, the lives saved, the missions completed. I think about the woman I was when I left and the woman I became when I returned. I regret the pain my decision caused my daughter. I regret the time we lost. But I don't regret serving my country, and I don't regret the person that service helped me become. After the hearing, Torres finds me in the corridor. He's been promoted to Sergeant First Class and is preparing for his own deployment to Afghanistan. Casey, there's something I never told you about that night you carried me out of that convoy attack. What's that? You were talking the whole time, mumbling about your daughter, about how you had to get home to her, about how she needed her. Mother, I thought you were delirious from adrenaline, but now I realize you weren't fighting for some abstract idea of duty or country. You were fighting to get home to your baby. He hands me a folded piece of paper. My wife wanted me to give you this. I unfold it to find a photograph of Torres with his wife and son, all 3 of them in military dress uniforms. On the back, his wife has written, "Thank you for bringing my husband home to us. Your sacrifice made our family possible." 6 months later, I get the call I've been waiting for. Judge Morrison has approved joint custody. Lily will spend equal time with me and the Hendersons, a family arrangement that's unconventional, but built on love rather than law. The transition isn't easy. Lily still calls Mrs. Henderson Mama Sarah, and me, Mama Casey, which breaks my heart and fills it simultaneously. But she's thriving, surrounded by people who love her, secure in the knowledge that she has multiple adults committed to her. Well-being. On the 2nd anniversary of my return from Iraq, I'm tucking Lily into bed when she asks the question I've been preparing for. Mama Casey, why did you go to the war when I was little? I've rehearsed this conversation 100 times, but sitting there looking into her innocent eyes, all my prepared answers seem inadequate. Baby, sometimes grown-ups have to make really hard choices. I went to the war because I wanted to help people who were hurt, and because I wanted to make enough money to give you a good life. But it meant I had to be away from you, and that was the hardest thing I've ever done. Were you scared? Every day. Not of the bad guys, but of being away from you, of missing you growing up, of you forgetting that I loved you. She's quiet for a long moment, processing this with the gravity only a 3-year-old can bring to existential questions. I didn't forget, she says finally. Mama Sarah showed me pictures and told me stories. She said you were being brave for me. Do you understand what that means? It means you love me, even when you're not here. I kiss her forehead, marveling at the wisdom of children. That's exactly what it means, baby. Even when I'm not here, I love you. Always. As I watch her drift off to sleep, I realize something. That's taken me 3 years to understand. There was no right choice that night I signed those deployment papers. There was no perfect solution to being a broke, single mother with no support and no options. There was only the choice I made, with the information I had, hoping it would lead to something better for both of us, Dot. And maybe it did. Not in the way I planned, not without cost. But maybe the woman who came back from Iraq was better equipped to be Lily's mother than the scared girl who left her behind. Maybe the family we've built, unconventional, complicated, but filled with love, is exactly what we both needed. The last thing I do before going to bed is check my email. There's a message from Torres, now deployed in Afghanistan, with a photo attached. It shows him treating a wounded Afghan child, providing the same medical care I provided him 3 years ago in Iraq. The circle continues. His message reads, "Thanks for teaching me that service and family aren't enemies. They're two different ways of loving the people who matter most." I close the laptop and look around my small apartment, at the photos of Lily covering every surface, at the deployment memorabilia mixed with children's toys, at the life I've built from the ashes of an impossible choice. Tomorrow, Lily starts preschool. The Hendersons and I will all be there, 3 adults who love one child enough to put her needs above our own comfort or convenience. It's not the family I imagined when I was 25 and pregnant and terrified, but it's the family. We've become Dot, and for the first time since I signed those papers 4 years ago, that feels like enough.